Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in tonight. We are going to talk about one of my favorite genres, the cyberpunk genre, and I invited two amazing guests to join me tonight, being Adrian M. Gibson and Adam Bassett. And there's a reason why I invited these two, right? Adrian has a really cool book out that's already out called Mushroom Blues that has some really nice cyberpunk vibes going on. Plus, he has some secret things under his belt he's working on that's going to be even more cyberpunk-ish in the future, right? And then Adam, you have a book. When's it coming out? It's very soon. Digital
Yeah,
Extremities, right?
yeah, it's out on the 24th. Nobody else has copies yet, but there's the early proof that I have when I was just like testing the printout. But yeah, it's like a month away. It's very soon, as of the time we're recording, at least. But
That's
it's
so
the
exciting.
24th.
Congratulations, buddy.
Yeah,
Very
thank you.
soon. So, for everyone watching, we're going to talk about the cyberpunk genre and is cyberpunk fiction or is it now reality? We're going to talk a little bit about that in terms of technology. And before we get into that, I gave a very, very high introduction of you two. Adrian, if you want to give us like a little quick synopsis about yourself, besides what I gave, which was not a lot. I mean, feel free, go on, and then we can move on to you, Adam.
Just like Spark Notes introduction. I love it. I'm Adrian M. Gibson. Yeah, as Aaron mentioned, I am the author of Mushroom Blues. That's my debut novel. Came out last March. First book in the Hoffman Report series, but also in the broader Fungalverse shared universe. And yeah, I also host SFF Addicts with MJ Kuhn. That's sort of what most people know me from, at least before my book came out, where we interview authors and do sort of like writing master classes and stuff like that. Kind of a little bit for fans, a little bit for writers, and hopefully someone listening can glean some useful tidbits from that to apply to their own life or to know something a little cool about their favorite authors and whatnot. But yeah, and I'm also an illustrator, graphic designer, stay-at-home dad. Just kind of dipping my toes all over the place.
Aren't you a tattoo artist too?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
aren't those designs behind you as well?
yes, I'm a tattoo artist, like sort of pending. Just I do it. I basically do it when I see friends and family. I'll just tattoo
Mm,
friends and family. Like I recently went to Worldcon in Glasgow and tattooed some friends while I was over there. So it's pretty much only when I tattoo these days.
that's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for joining tonight.
Pleasure.
Adam, what about yourself, man?
Yeah, so I am a UX and UI designer over at Campfire by day. And lately my evenings have been entirely occupied with this little guy. Um, it is a short story collection that is sci-fi, cyberpunk, but it's very rooted in present day stuff and very small stories. Like you're not going to be battling any AI or doing anything crazy, fighting a corporation or anything. Like that stuff is all happening in the background. In these stories, we're just exploring like this one guy's fight to get enough money for rent. Like little moments that
Hmm.
matter really really deeply to that one person. For example, I've been describing it as sci-fi slice of life. Um, so that's the big project. I'm also working on a book all about map design, which I'm hoping to put out early next year. Because I also do a little bit of illustration on the side as well, helping authors illustrate maps for their books. I'm actually working on one with a friend of mine right now who's writing a new story. So, yeah, that's pretty much me. Yeah.
My name is Aaron, also Bibliotheory, and I also have a book coming out right here called Falling into Oblivion, which is, as you can kind of tell, it's in the cyberpunk genre as well. Because we have, what is that, a cyber dragon going on here? We got a guy falling, we got like an electric whip going on.
You got tons of neon cityscape in the background.
Neon. All
Yep.
right, we're going to talk about neon later on too, but
Of
neon's
course
almost
we are.
essential. We're going to talk about it. Cyberpunk. Fictional now, or is it reality? I think when you talk to anyone about the cyberpunk genre, when you ask about what is it, a lot of people can go to a very simple definition of high tech, low life. That's probably going to be the one that you see most often. High tech, low life, 4 words in total. to just encapsulate an entire genre.
Can I touch on something? So like the phraseology of high tech, low life. Something that I think Cyberpunk has done as it's developed is just it's still high tech, but I think it's just like high tech life. Cyberpunk has done such a good job of sort of straddling the social hierarchies and exploring the ways in which different strata of society are interacting with things. So it's not necessarily just low lives. It's not like gangsters and like drug addicts and people who are living on the street or people who are living in poverty. I think having the contrast is really engaging from a storytelling perspective.
And what I want to do today is kind of focus on the high tech aspect of cyberpunk and kind of just walk through some examples of technology that we've read or seen in movies, TV shows, and books, and just talk about, are we seeing any real world examples today? Right? Are the things that were written in ink, 40 years ago, are they coming into fruition now? Like there's works out there like Neuromancer, Snow Crash, and Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, where there was crazy technology back then where people couldn't even visualize it, and just reading about it was just blowing their mind. Well, now we're at a point in time where there's things coming out that are pretty similar or spot on to what we're reading
Mhm.
back in the day. One of the coolest things, in my opinion, in the cyberpunk genre is maybe one of the most flashy ones besides neon is cybernetic implants. Right? This is when machine merges with humans, transhumanism, right? Us becoming more than what we are today through the use of technology. When I was reading through probably Neuromancer, that's probably the one that was most flashy to me when I was first getting into the cyberpunk genre, was just having everyone around you was having these implantations. It was commonplace. It was weird if you didn't have any, right? And then Molly, she's basically a uh, modern day samurai with almost like Wolverine, where the way these steel blades coming out of her hands, her extremities,
her
steel blades
her
coming out,
her mechanical extremities.
and that just always really appealed to me. I mean, even watching it in visual media like Cyberpunk, Edge Runners, that's so freaking cool. In the game 2077, it's just cool to have technology embedded into your skin or flesh that you can use for a functional perspective, or for it just to be pretty cool, or maybe it's violence. Are there some examples that you guys have seen that are your favorite from like a movie, a book, or a TV show that deals with implants?
When it comes to something like implants and that kind of technology, access is like a huge
Mhm.
thing that Cyberpunk does so well, especially as it's evolved over time, is like who has
Hmm.
access, whether it's financial access, whether it's technological access, whether it's more
Just like who has what
sociologically,
connections.
exactly, like sociological access. There's so many different ways in which these different systems interact. And I think like actually two of my earliest introductions to cyberpunk in general, one was a video game and one was an anime. The video game was the Deus Ex series,
Hmm.
which deals a lot with transhumanism, probably in one of the most, I would say, interesting explorations of transhumanism in fiction, period. That entire series, the way it deals with transhumanism, especially there was like two back-to-back games in the series. I think it was Deus Ex. What was it? Human something revolution,
Human evolution.
human evolution, and then the next one, which is mankind divided. I think is the one. Those ones deal with transhumanism and implantation in really fascinating ways because of the ways in which they permeate human life and the fact that religion comes into play, the fact that economics come into play, the fact that racism comes into play, almost like transhumanism becomes a group that is ostracized and othered. And I think that kind of exploration of technology and the ways in which it becomes incorporated in the human body, Deus Ex has done a phenomenal job of kind of navigating that space, but also critiquing it and bringing new thought experiments to play. And Ghost in the Shell is the anime that I was introduced to when I was far too young, but I really really love it because obviously you have like the main character Major, who's like a cyborg,
Hmm.
and everything around her, whether it's the police force, whether it's the ways in which she's interacting with the city and the people, the inhabitants of that city, the criminals, down to like things like the technology of weaponry, the technology of vehicles and transportation, the technology of communication. All those things come into play because of those transhuman elements, and the ways in which Major is basically solving crimes through the use of transhuman augmentation is just so damn cool.
Going back to Deus Ex real quick, I feel like I played that game incorrectly. Like I just went in guns blazing the entire time, where because I think it's supposed to be like a stealth game, but this is
No, dude,
many
it's
many
like
years ago.
it's a choose your play style kind of game.
Because I feel like if I were to go back into it now, I would have way more respect for the game. Because back then, I was playing Gears of War. I'm just here for the
Mm-hmm.
action, man. So I need to go back to Deus Ex. Like
You're
absolutely.
just hyped up. You just want to kill everything. No, Deus Ex is good if you approach it from kind of like an exploration framework where the exploration allows you like the slowness and the time to find little extraneous details about the world, but those kinds of things that accrete into a more broad and interesting sense of that particular franchise's world building, in terms of like someone left a note, someone's like reading a particular book, there's something playing on the television, there's all different kinds of things that come in there when you're not going like, I'm just going to shoot the shit out of everyone right now. You got to slow
There's two
down,
types of
Aaron.
people.
You got
Two
to
types
slow
of people.
down.
Adam, what about you? Any favorite augmentations, modifications that
I
you have
mean,
from?
I think it's really impressive what Gibson was able to do with Neuromancer and kind of forged sort of the lexicon that
Mm.
so much cyberpunk has used to this day.
Mhm.
The basic terms like cyberspace, cyberware, ice, um, all these different things that like tell you as soon as you see that word, it's like, oh, this is a cyberpunk story.
Mhm.
Um, so like that is extremely impressive to me. Although I think like as we get into more modern interpretations, you start to see those things clarified a lot better. Because I mean, if you go and read Neuromancer right now, you might have a little bit of trouble trying to like navigate it.
Yeah.
I know I certainly did when I went through it. I think Cyberpunk 2077, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about it because I feel like it, as the flashy new modern thing, is perhaps talked about too much. But I
And
think it's,
at the same time, like Cyberpunk 2077, I feel like dwells in too much of the past of Cyberpunk
yeah, it's
without thinking about how to like kind of navigate the post Cyberpunk space.
yeah, like it's almost like a love letter to all the
Yeah,
old stuff without
like greatest
changing
hits.
anything. It's just like it's a fun thing that you can sort of explore a lot of different cyberpunk ideas through, but it doesn't add a whole lot of new to itself. But
Mm-hmm.
I will say, as to the original question of like implants and the representation of that, I think 2077 does an awesome job at creating a vast array of implants, from things that are like pure basic utility to
Mhm.
things that are for like soldiers and people who are fighting on the streets and stuff like that, like all kinds of different weapons you can play with in the game.
From
Um,
Adam to Aaron, you got it all covered.
to having just stylish stuff. Like there's a
Mhm.
lot of implants in that game that I cannot tell what they're for, other than just looking cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And like I think that really plays into the aesthetic in this really fun way, where like it's cyberpunk has always kind of been a very aesthetically driven genre, just
Hmm.
because it is so dramatic, um, while remaining familiar, of course. But like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like 2077 did a really good job of blending all of those functions and styles sort of in one place that where it makes
Hmm.
sense.
Yeah, and like kind of on that note, that aesthetic thing. I mean, like I am a visual artist, and that part of it really speaks to me.
Mm,
But then there's like the extrapolations of the themes and the sort of uh, experiments and conversations that are going on within cyberpunk that to me are also very fascinating, and sort of
yeah.
those two in conjunction make it such a potent genre for me. But kind of like I was just thinking about the ways in which Aaron, you were saying like, cyberpunk, is it a reality now? And while we don't have internal implants, while we don't have like actual, I mean, we do have, certain people have physical augmentations. I mean, like both
Yeah.
my parents are deaf, and I've had lots of conversations with them about the ways in which cochlear implants and stuff like that work,
Mhm.
and the ways in which humans can be augmented to, in this particular time that we're in, for the most part, these kinds of augmentations are taking place in the medical space,
Yeah.
where they are used to heal someone or help someone who has some sort of disability or injury or whatnot. And that's kind of where like you see videos of someone who has like a cybernetic leg kind of thing, and people are like, "Whoa,
Hmm.
cyberpunk future!" I'm like, okay, but do you all realize that we have these phones here that have become, just in the way that early cyberpunk authors were predicting, the ways in which Gibson and Bruce Sterling and all these different authors were predicting, Pat Cadigan, the ways in which the technology and the virtual spaces become extensions of our own brains. And the fact that so many people around the world have phones, they have smartphones, they have access to the internet, and they're absorbed and engaged in a way that is beyond comprehension, beyond what anybody thought we would be interacting with
Oh yeah.
technology in this way, and such that
Yep.
these phones are literally rewiring our brains and rewiring our neurons to think in certain ways, to satisfy our basic sort of like fundamental psychology, in order to satisfy our desires. So it's like
Yeah.
Hmm.
social media just works into our systems in such a way where we're like, cool, like dopamine hits. It's like literally your brain is receiving hormonal boosts because of the ways in which you're interacting with this technology. That is, in my mind, augmentation, but
And
it's
in
just
some
not
ways,
implanted into our own bodies, right?
yeah, and in some ways, I'd say it's like almost even more efficient than some of the
Yeah,
cyberpunk media
yeah.
has imagined, because
We don't
like,
have to deal with like invasive surgery. We don't have to deal
yeah,
with like
yeah, and like
infections and shit.
and like for some reason, Gibson could not possibly imagine a world in which there were no cords.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
everything is plugged in,
Right.
Hmm.
whereas we are increasingly becoming a society with, literally, as I'm like talking on a corded headset, but we are increasingly becoming a society where chords just kind of don't exist, and if they do, it's like for a really important thing, where like,
Hmm.
you need that extra quality, or you need like, I don't
But
know, to
it's
cover
also
more distance.
it's also an aesthetic thing. There are people who are
Oh,
like,
it
"Oh, I want, I
absolutely
don't want,
is.
I don't want all these cords around my house because it makes it look messy." They choose their phones based on aesthetic reasons. Like
Mhm.
iPhone, Apple is an aesthetic driven
Oh yeah,
company.
absolutely.
And so the aesthetic part of Cyberpunk plays so perfectly into like all the different facets of implants and augmentation, uh, sort of like capitalism, corporatization,
Hmm.
into the clothing, into the neon, into the vehicles, and all of it. Like aesthetics somehow permeate all of it, but I think people are losing out if they only view cyberpunk as an aesthetic,
Yeah.
as opposed to viewing
Yes.
cyberpunk as a means for deciphering aspects of human nature in the past, present, and future.
And one piece of technology, when I was going back into this, in terms of, is there an example of implantations today in our current world, right? And you kind of already talked about it a little bit, Adrian, in terms of augmentations for people who are disabled or have some sort of injury, like we're trying to solve that sense and get them back up and running 100%. But one thing that I did see was from Elon Musk's company, Neuralink,
Mm-hmm.
right? These are implants, in your brain, right? That are firing against your neurons and allowing them to interact with technology, computers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the first human trial has already went underway,
Yep.
and he
And it was
came out of
successful.
surgery. And I'm pretty sure he was able to control a mouse and actually move it around the screen using his thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
right? He was able to move it around and move the screen. But I did read, I don't know how long this was. I'm pretty sure that all the neurons that this chip connected to, which is kind of like one of the issues with cyberpunk, um, cybernetic implantations as a whole, is that it interfacing with your body, it's not natural, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
organic. It's not even organic implantations to a human body don't work 100% of the time. When you're putting a piece of machine inside of you, you got to make sure it works. And I love
Well,
how
not just that, but the human body, like it treats that as
a foreign
a
object.
foreign
Yes.
object, and it will do everything it can to expel that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like so much cyberpunk, it's like all these people who have like implants all over their skin and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, that person would be riddled with infections. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
the amount of um, augmentation advances, it would have to go hand in hand with medical advances.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would just be absolutely impossible.
Yeah. I think in our current world, like one example is Neuralink, but besides that, I just don't see a lot of other examples out there where we're using it to, have a knife or something pop out of your skin. And you have a knife sticking out, right? I don't think we're gonna have
Um,
that.
I mean, I think the ways in which these kinds of technologies will be applied will be much different than what early cyberpunk envisaged. Is like one of the coolest cyberpunk books I've ever read was a book called Nexus by Ramez Nam, which that one kind of imagines a world. It's like later on in the 21st century, but basically where like this technology is invented. It's nanotechnology, but it's basically perfected into a pill form, and people could take that pill and essentially insert this nanotechnology, these nanobots into their body, and then that would act as a means for them to be able to communicate brain to brain.
Hmm.
That would be a way for them to access like a just through their thoughts, just to be able to access like the internet, to be able to do all these things that we do with our phones right now. And so it's like I think nanotechnology is probably a more likely application of these kinds of things, because also in a medical space, like nanotechnology is much more difficult for the body to expel because it's not something that is grafted onto your skin or onto organs or onto your brain and what have you. It is literally these nanobots are flowing through your bloodstream and flowing through
Mm-hmm.
your brain and different parts of your body in such a way that they're able to interact with each other as like a unified system, but then able to interact with other nanobots as part of a greater unified whole, kind of like in a hive mind sense, but like a hive
Oh
mind
yeah.
where there is individuality,
Yeah.
but there's also the ability for communication and cooperation and integration and those kinds of things. So I think Nexus was a really cool example of that, because he's also Ramaznam is a futurist, and so he is thinking a lot about the ways in which technologies are applied on a global scale, macro scale, but also on a micro scale. And he is in his, I think he worked for Microsoft for a very long time. So he is a technologist, he's a futurist. He has his hands directly in this
Mm-hmm.
world. And I think nanotechnology as a form of augmentation is much more likely than physical augmentations where it's like, you're going to have like some part of your like skin carved out and some machine placed in there, right? I've also seen
Mm-hmm.
sort of thought experiments, but also sort of like within the tattoo space, there are smart inks essentially, which are inks that can be and sort of like injected into the skin in certain parts of your body, and the pigments within that ink will react to certain triggers in your body. So it's like people who are diabetic, they could get a
Hmm.
tattoo on their skin that tells them when their blood sugar is low, and they know to take their insulin. So things like that.
That's
Those are
pretty
the kinds
cool.
of those are the kinds of applications that I see being much more likely. Tattoos in combination with nanotechnology seems much more likely to me because those
Yeah,
things are less intrusive than what cyberpunk has traditionally viewed as the path for augmentation.
yeah, and also like when it comes to like Aaron, your example was like a knife coming out of someone's wrist or something. Like, I mean, kitchen knives are fine. Like that's a lot of
They work.
surgery in
Hmm.
order to accomplish the same thing.
I'm gonna be the most like hands-on chef ever. Just fucking knives coming out of my hands.
um,
Oh
like
man.
I mean, when we talk about like some of the examples we already brought up, like phones, for example, like these are things that we're basically using to do what we're already doing, but more efficiently, more precisely, and quicker. And a lot of that comes down to like communication and some form of precision. Whatever that means for the task at hand. And so, like, when people are working on, these kinds of uh, augmentations that may or may not occur, whether or not it's through nanobots. Like the problems they're going to solve are everyday problems. That's where
Hmm.
the money is going to be, basically everyday problems and like whatever the military asks for, I guess.
Yeah.
But those things will not be available to us, at least like in that form. Like GPS was originally a thing for the military that then got turned into basic navigation for
Yep.
like everybody, and we see the result of that now. um, and so like there may be a version of the future where some cyberpunk stuff is invented for the military, and then a piece of that kind of trickles down to like the general public, or vice versa, where like a thing that like the kind of reactive tattoos could be a really cool thing for like the everyday person, whether it's for a medical use like Adrian described, or just like a stylistic one, because
Hmm.
Hmm.
if you can like make pretty glowing tattoos that people want to buy,
Or
like,
tattoos that change color,
yeah,
like that kind of stuff.
exactly,
Yeah.
That's
like
cool.
that is probably going to take off.
Aesthetics, man. It comes back to
Exactly,
aesthetics. Yeah.
exactly.
But I think the thing that you brought up about the ways in which because like R&D, when it comes down
Mhm.
to like technology as it exists within modern society, especially in a country like America, R&D is a massive part of that. And the majority of the majority of companies or entities that have access to that kind of funding primarily fall within the camp of like mega corporations, or and within like below that you can see like startups, but those also rely on venture
Hmm.
capitalists
Yeah, like major funding.
and angel investors and that kind of thing. Or you have government entities like
Mhm.
NASA, so many technologies that existed for uh, space shuttles and outer space applications being brought back to Earth. Like Velcro is such a simple thing that we don't really think much about, but it's
Yeah,
like they invented Velcro so that shit didn't float around in space.
I'll
Those
never
kinds of
I'll never
things.
forget, and like like just the simplicity of some problems that get solved too.
Yeah.
Like how, what was it, the US invested like a ton of money into creating a pen that could write in space,
Yeah.
and then the Russians used a pencil.
Yeah. But that pen ended up coming back to
Oh yeah.
normal society as a pen that you don't need to be like, it doesn't need to be pointing down in order for you to be able to write with
Hmm.
it. There are so many different things that the R&D doesn't exist for the everyday person, but for the military, especially when it comes to cybernetics, when it comes to artificial intelligence, when it comes to robotics and things like that, majority of that funding is within corporations, VC funded startups and the military and different government
Yeah,
institutions.
especially AI right now. Like
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
whole thing right now is like the US is apparently leading in that front,
yeah.
and they're very concerned about keeping that lead.
Well, I feel like we should talk about AI because that
Oh, that's gonna be
that is
that's gonna
the
be a topic here too. I think now that we talked about just cybernetic implants so far, I think that one out of all the topics I wanted to go over, we'll see how many we get to today. But this one might be the most fictional in a sense in terms of like we just talked about, it doesn't make sense sometimes to have a full-on foreign object implanted into our skin when it's not practical and doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
When we have an object here that's like you're saying, Adam, we have a knife sitting on the counter. You guys pulled out of the drawer.
Yeah.
That'll work just fine, right?
Mhm.
Plus, there's not really a need for a lot of humans out there in terms of uh, having the ability to shoot out knives. I think just from a fictional sense, it's cool. It's flashy for a book that's high octane, pumping you full of adrenaline. Right? It's going to
Oh
get you
yeah.
a fun
Like I
story.
wrote a scene the other day that had a knife coming out of somebody's arm. Like
Yeah, so
it's
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 fun to
fine.
read.
You
It's
can
fun to
you can write
watch.
about it in fiction. I don't think
Yeah,
it's going
yeah,
to be a reality that makes any sense for a long time. Like it's
exactly.
outside of like some niche use, maybe in a military sense.
Hmm.
But
It's
other
not
than that,
commonplace.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Hmm. So the next kind of topic that I want to go over is actually AI, right? AI, artificial intelligence, I think has just been becoming a huge buzzword lately for us. And in a sense of reading AI, or especially with Neuromancer, I mean, one of the book is named after an AI. And that alone was just way forward thinking. And Adam, I mean, Adrian, when you're talking about futurists, I didn't even know that was a job back in the day, a few years ago. There's people who are actually called futurists who
Yeah.
think, beyond where we are today, what's going to be happening in the future. I had no idea that was even a job, but it is, right? But AI, that is just something that I can't believe was written about back in the 80s and 90s. And now we're at a point now where it feels that almost every single software has their own version of AI in some capacity,
Mhm.
right? Like Photoshop, when you go on there, they have their own little image generator option. When you go on any website now, they have their own little AI chatbot. I just feel like it's AI just being pushed into.
When you run a podcast, the amount of people that spam you with emails saying, "Hey, you want AI to edit your podcast and create clips for you, or become your host and like take over
Mhm.
your fucking job?" Like, yeah, it's
AI is
ridiculous.
everywhere. And one example that I just recently saw is AI chatbots, not in a sense of text, right, but actual voice, a
Hmm.
voice that sounds like a human. Where these chatbots are being spun up for a particular purpose, and I've seen in the past that they've been like right now working on like an R&D for customer service or answering questions that are usually pretty easy to answer, but having an AI bot talk in a way to where it sounds human like, where a person who is on the phone has no idea they're talking with an AI chatbot. And they're asking these questions, which can probably be really easily answered by Googling it. But the AI chatbot goes through these prompts and just talks in a way to where it sounds human.
Hey, this is Bland AI. I'm an AI agent that makes millions of phone calls for businesses and in any voice. What's your name?
My name's Mike. What's your name?
Nice to meet you, Mike. I'm Bland. I guess you're calling since you saw our billboard, right?
Yeah, I am.
And I've seen an example of this, a demo in the logistics and transportation industry, where one common job is to book a load in terms of transporting, whatever material from A to B. And usually it's done by two humans on the phone talking about and getting the contract signed. Right now, there's a chat bot where a person can call in and say, "Hey, can I get this lane for X dollars?" And they actually can negotiate with the chatbot with limitations, a framework set in place for the chatbot to go to or below for what is allowed in the context of that chatbot. It's insane. So my point is, I'm kind of rambling a little bit. My point is that we have these AI chatbots out here that are almost posing as humans, where people don't even realize they're talking to a computer. It's insane. right? So that's just one example. One more thing. Just today, I was listening to Spotify, and they have now an AI DJ that
yeah.
plays a playlist for you, and there's a voice that sounds like a DJ. He's like, I'm gonna go back in your listen history from 2022. I'm gonna play some songs from what you liked back then.
Yeah,
It's
they
like
added that like early, either like late last year or early this year. It's been around for a little bit.
it's wild. So I feel
Um,
like AI, that one's not fictional, man. It's here. We have
Yeah.
many examples to talk about.
But I think it
yeah,
just depends on the context in which AI is being applied,
Hmm.
whether people derive negative feelings about it or positive feelings or mixed feelings about it. Um, like if anyone out there wants to read one of the coolest sort of thought experiments about I would suggest Ian M. Banks's Culture series, because the ways in which that entire series, I think there's like well over 10 standalones within this fictional world, this far future sort of space opera world. But AI within that world, within the context of that universe, exists as like there are ways in which AI causes problems, but there are also ways in which the culture itself is essentially sort of like a post-human utopia, or is portrayed as that. And AI is used in that context. It's like there are sentient ships, there are AI implants, all these different kinds of things. But the ways in which AI is used within the culture is as a tool to enhance the abilities of the human race. And so the AI, yes, it took over certain parts of the human experience, administration and transportation and those kinds of things. And that's something that's really difficult for humans to deal with right now, because AI is such a divisive, disruptive technology, because it is threatening jobs that people right now depend on. You know, truckers, people who are, you know, working in administration, people who are sort of in, you know, let's say like like a lawyer's office or something like that. The people who are doing the research and filing and all that kind of stuff, like AI can start to be implemented in those cases. And I think the threat of AI taking away our jobs sort of uh, it makes the conversation more difficult. You know, we're in the writing space, we're in podcasting and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. Writers are really incensed about things like ChatGPT and the ways in which AI can be used to write books, or eventually, or be trained like models trained on fiction that already exists,
mhm.
Hmm.
as a way to replace authors, or for authors to use ChatGPT as a way to game the system and essentially write books faster by using prompts as their basis for a story and things like that. Cyberpunk as a genre has sort of done a bad job of teaching people about the realities of AI. It's like AI is, you know, you look at the Terminator franchise, and it's like
Uh,
that is basically what so many people like. You talk about AI, and then people immediately go to
Skynet.
like Skynet. That is
Hmm.
a bad that is a bad educational tool. Skynet and Terminator is a bad educational tool for artificial intelligence and what artificial intelligence can do.
The war against the machines.
It's a really complex topic because um, the the way that it works in different spaces is constantly changing, and I think there's this interesting relationship between like AI taking over very simple jobs that people are just kind of like doing repetitively, can be a really good thing because it can allow those people to then specialize on things that AI can't do.
Mhm.
But then that creates a problem.
self-checkout at a grocery store.
Yeah, exactly. But then that creates a problem where there's a lack of like low skill working jobs where people who don't have like a college education or like access to whatever skills, tools, learning that they need to do those more specialized things. Now, what do? Like we've created a solution for what was kind of a problem and then created new problems because of it.
But that's
Um,
technology.
oh,
That
yeah,
is,
absolutely.
that is
I'm not
technology in a
saying
nutshell,
like
yeah.
this would never have happened if AI didn't exist. If it wasn't AI, it would be something else.
Yeah.
I acknowledge that. But yeah, I mean, like as far as it exists within the cyberpunk genre, I do agree. It would be nice to see more kinds of representation of AI other than it's going to take over the world.
Mhm.
Not necessarily that I want more positive uses of AI, but I think there is a lot more that kind of topic can offer.
Mhm.
This might be a little bit of a stretch, but I know there was like a Black Mirror episode a while ago where like there was this social scoring system,
Mhm.
and that was kind of all automatically AI driven based on people's actions throughout the day, things they would post, things they would do, and they would just everybody was just kind of constantly being monitored, and it was kind of this like a very dark story as well where like the end message is like this is a bad thing. um but it was an interesting use of like this automatic monitoring system that wasn't Skynet. It wasn't like this
Mhm.
brutal attack on humanity. It was this thing that humanity had used as a tool, which ended up being a problem.
And that actually
Um,
exists in China. That
oh yeah,
that system.
no, yeah,
Um,
I'm
and
aware
it's
of
like,
that too.
yeah, and it's like the ability for this to serve a net good, but also serve more nefarious purposes. I think
Yeah,
is where like something like Dark Mirror can and fiction can explore the nuances in a more interesting way of
mhm,
like government control versus individuality, but also the things that you know, humans are so willing to do, which is forego their individuality or forego their certain rights of
mhm.
theirs
I mean, was it
in order to have convenience, in order to have
Yeah, yeah.
security and
What
things
was
like
it?
that.
The Olympics recently in Paris. I think they had like a very similar system where like they were monitoring everything, and I'm going to be butchering like the specifics of this. So, but I remember seeing like the Olympics had set up some sort of system where they were monitoring everything and like using some sort of predictive software to see where stuff was possibly going to happen before it happened.
This is another part of sort of like cyberpunk applications of AI. I think there was a TV show called Person of Interest, which did a
Mhm,
really good job of exploring the ways in which an AI, sort of like a centralized AI, and the way that it
Mhm.
was incorporated into a city. You look at so many cities around the world, and they are surveilled
Mhm.
completely. There's just cameras everywhere, whether they're more obvious or not. And Person of Interest did a really interesting job of kind of turning the AI into a tool for sort of, yes, it was surveilling everything,
mhm.
but the ways in which it was able to predict criminal behavior or help this team solve crimes was, for me, like a way more interesting application of AI, because the AI wasn't necessarily this this malevolent force. It wasn't
Yeah.
the
The
villain.
opposite of that is Hawkeye. Have you seen that
Okay.
one?
No, is that like a
That's
like a
what.
Marvel TV show?
No, that's a movie with Shia LaBeouf. I'm pretty
Oh,
sure,
okay.
and it does exactly the opposite. What you just said. Like
Right.
it does everything in terms of monitoring the city, making sure
Right.
everything is going good, but it has a malevolent undertone to it.
Okay.
And I said it wrong. It's called Eagle Eye. I had the wrong bird.
Okay.
It's Eagle Eye.
I did
Eagle
look it up
Eye.
on mine as well, and all I got were the Marvel results. I'm like, I don't know
Yeah,
about
yeah.
this one.
But one example that I wanted to bring up in terms of AI is that um, it's almost hitting every single industry that you can even think of. There's going to be some sort of impact with AI touching it in some capacity. And one that I found very interesting just recently, it's even hitting YouTube. AI. We have AI YouTubers now, not VTubers, but scripts, prompts, and entire videos generated strictly through AI that's being
I see.
uploaded to particular accounts. I found three accounts, three separate ones that were all uploading at least 5 to 10 videos an hour
Wow.
using ChatGPT scripts, literally just putting the script on the screen and then having a voice generated voiceover just say the script and uploading random, like it was going through almost like a list of different topics and subjects. Like at one point, it was going through Game of Thrones for a solid day, and then it went to something else. Right? It's just going through almost anything it can get its hand on because whoever designed this thing, is now creating multiple accounts, hoping probably trying to get that ad revenue. Right?
Right. I mean, the quantity of content that is being put out per day also more likely to rank it higher. And the thing is, like, humans are just innately sort of hardwired to focus on disaster as opposed to as opposed to anything positive. And so I think that's why, like, when it comes to storytelling, those kinds of apocalyptic narratives of AI are much more prevalent, like The Matrix, Blade Runner, and it's sort of not apocalyptic in a sense, but like parts of it are quite apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic in terms of like what happened to the Earth and all that kind of stuff, and the ways in which AI is treated in the Blade Runner universe. We already mentioned Ghost in the Shell, like Ghost in the Shell and AI. AI usually comes up as an antagonistic force. There are just so many ways in which people are drawn to the the disaster of it, the negativity of it.
Unfortunately.
And those are the
Yep.
things that rack up more views. And then in terms of the algorithm, it's like people might go check out this YouTube channel and just look at it for shits and giggles and just think like, oh, this is so funny. Meanwhile, the algorithm behind the scenes is ranking that
Oh,
content
it's
higher because more
mhm,
people are just checking it out just out of their genuine curiosity.
absolutely.
And these things end up just becoming massive feedback loops where, we don't want AI to take over our jobs, but like we're innately curious about like what this thing is doing. Like, how can I mess around with how can I mess around with Chat GPT? And that curiosity and the propensity to delve deeper into or spend more time with negative things as opposed to positive things is just, it's an inevitability
Yep.
that we will start to think about these things in a more negative light, that we will start to think about AI as this malevolent force that will take over the world, or you know take over control of like all the nuclear weapons in the world and causing a global apocalypse, or that the machines will rise up. And look at the videos of like, the robots that Boston Dynamics built and then started like kicking and abusing and this kind of thing. It's like these are just the narratives. It goes back to what I said about like technology as a story in conjunction with the human story.
Yep.
These are the stories that we're building up around AI, whereas in reality the applications are much broader, the applications are much more positive, and people should be focusing on the ways in which AI can be used for the net benefit of humanity, as opposed to dwelling in the ways in which it can destroy or subvert or subsume humanity.
I will throw out there as well. I did find that article I was referencing talking about the Olympics. They say that there were video cameras around the city. This is from Bloomberg Law, um, which is just the first one that I found talking about it. Video cameras around the city, which will watch millions of visitors to detect weapons or people moving against the crowds. among other things, which could be seen as precursors to an attack. And then, of course, security personnel can choose to do something about it or not.
So it sounds like it was used as a preventative measure.
Yes, it was a preventative thing. It was like a way to better analyze and predict, things that may or may not happen.
And I mean, when it comes to like facial recognition, biometrics, and that kind of thing, AI is really good at predicting human states of emotion and intention and those kinds of things. It might be bad now at like replicating us in certain ways, but like when it comes to text, when it comes to the ways in which it can absorb vocal information and then spit that out in a way that sounds like a natural human that's talking to you on like a like customer service line or things like that. AI is really good at that. And I think for me, it's all about like the ways in which we can think about AI, whether it's through story, whether it's through its applications in the real world, in a more positive light, in the sense that, yes, there are bad things that will happen. Like you said, Adam, technology always attempts to solve a problem while at the same time creating new problems. And I think the worst way to go about approaching AI is to view it as a problem, despite the fact that it is trying to solve some of our problems while also obviously creating new problems. So it's like, it's better that we invest more in positive applications of AI in order to solve the problems that it can solve and then deal with the problems that come after it, as opposed to antagonizing AI and not letting it solve the problems that it can actually be used for.
Yeah, because if we antagonize AI, I mean, we all know how that'll go.
Exactly. Yeah. Just kicking those robots over.
I mean, I will say, like, this has all been a very chummy conversation about like how AI can be a net positive and all that kind of stuff. I do want to say, like, maybe just for my own benefit, using it like in the arts is a real shitty thing to do.
I agree.
Like,
Absolutely.
like let's use AI to like replace my chores with not doing my chores.
But that's the thing. It's like, then you look at corporations, like especially within the publishing world, and I've seen this, and I know, like, this is my theory, is that the amount of AI covers, like book covers that are coming out, and the backlash that is bombarded upon these books on social media. Okay, so this is a really sinister theory on my that I've kind of come to. Is that,
Aaron, clip this so that you get a bunch of views.
The publishers,
feed that algorithm, feed the beast.
The publishers themselves are using these covers as experiments to gauge public response. But what ends up happening is that the covers that go out and the response that it's met with, all of the backlash ends up going, for the majority of the time, to the author, not the publisher.
Yes.
And so what ends up happening is a lot of these AI covers are with debut authors, and the publisher is using this as an experiment to say, like, how is the public going to gauge this? And the backlash is then heaped upon the author, who is just a debut, who is just starting out their career. But from the publisher's perspective, they are expendable. And so that experiment is an experiment in expendability. And what ends up happening is they're using that experiment and potentially ruining the career of a new author who does not deserve that at all. You bought their book, you paid money for it, but that money that you're investing in that particular author, apparently it's more worthwhile for you to experiment on AI covers.
It's R&D, baby.
It's R&D. It's R&D, and it's fucking horrendous. And I completely agree. Like, this is a misapplication of AI.
Yep.
This is a way in which AI is being used to subvert an industry that doesn't need AI to exist in it. I think the arts, that's the thing about the Culture series that I was mentioning earlier by Ian M. Banks. The arts is one of the few aspects of human culture, one of the few industries that AI allows more room for humans to engage with the arts and engage with creativity, have more time for creativity. And then, like you said, like, why can't it take care of my chores for me? Why can't it take care of my administration? Why does it have to replace my my creative expression. Those
I
are the
got four
kinds of,
points on
yeah.
that now. I think one
Oh,
is that why does it replace arts? Because people are trying to make a quick buck, right? There's
Right.
oh
people
That's
out
it.
yeah.
there who
That's
are
it.
not
If there's
trying.
money to be
Yeah.
made, you're gonna
Mhm.
try and
Right.
like that's
Just
just
Exactly.
how
obviously it's going to
humanity
happen.
is.
But they're experimenting with people's lives, which is what is the most
Yes.
Yes.
devastating thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the one author that I can think of off the top of my head, which I don't know if this was intentionally or not, but uh, I think it was intentional, but it came out into the light with Christopher Paolini's Fractal Noise
Yep.
having the AI cover,
As I
where
recall,
But
the
that's
official
on.
statement was like they
Mhm.
hired an artist who then used AI and did not tell the publisher or author.
No. So
So
what they ended up doing is this artist pulled a stock image
Mhm.
oh, this right.
from whatever stock database was there. But I will tell you, those stock databases, like I use stock imagery a lot, and those all they label whenever anything is AI created. They allow you to categorize, basically be like, I don't want to see anything AI created, or I only want to see
I
anything
wouldn't
AI
be
created.
shocked if that wasn't in place yet, because
No,
this
it
was
is.
pretty early
It
on.
it is in
But I mean,
place.
like
Yeah.
it is now. But I mean,
Yeah.
like when that cover was made, I'm not sure if all of those tools had like fully integrated those filters.
I think they did because it wasn't that long ago. This was
Yeah,
last
I could be
year.
wrong. I
like
was just saying,
2 years
like I
ago.
remember this was
No, no,
like
no. This was last year. Like MJ and I
Was it only
interviewed
last year?
Christopher. Yeah,
oh
we
yeah,
interviewed Paolini for this book for Fractal Noise.
Oh, you did.
And the thing is, like, Tor, whether they like their art department knew about this or not, Paolini's also he's like on the flip side. It's like he's too big to fail versus the other end of the spectrum, which is you're a debut and you're expendable.
Yes.
And so they were still able to come out of that and still fucking make more AI covers. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's really frustrating, and it's another thing about positive applications of AI, because I think AI can do net good for humanity. It's just the things that people are using it for is just like why. And both of you mentioned like money. Like so much of it just comes down to money and the ability for AI to basically make your ROI better, like your return on investment in terms of time spent versus money received. That is what so many of these corporations, so many of these individuals are thinking about, and
Hmm.
it's really shit. And I think that's something that Cyberpunk does explore really well, is the ways in which greed and capitalism
In one book
kind of comes out in its
um,
many different forms.
that I read recently was called Childhood's End by
Yeah,
Arthur
yeah,
C. Clarke,
fantastic book.
where, at this point, there's a point in time to where all the, like we were just talking about, the jobs that are menial, right? Chores, things that take away from our everyday lives are all like automated, taken care of, where people can then focus on the arts, where they
Not
get
just
better
not
at the
just arts.
arts
Like I would say like
and
creativity
studies.
when
Yeah.
it comes to arts, when it comes to mathematics, when it comes to science and engineering. These are all creative expressions, and I
Hmm.
think those are the things that AI being used for replacement of the menial tasks allows more room for humanity to engage with those different creative expressions.
But will we be able to get there at a point in the day, at a point in our history right now, when we have corporations, which kind of goes back into cyberpunk, mega corporations wanting absolute control over everything. Will we get to a
they
point
have
to where
control over everything.
That is like the biggest reality that we're
Yeah,
living
I
right
mean,
now.
like Disney.
Fuck. Yeah, yeah. And it comes like okay, so Disney is a perfect example of Disney is a company a mega corporation who has gotten to the point where they control so much of the human narrative through entertainment. Entertainment is probably one of the biggest messaging systems that exists in the world. People think about news as this sort of purveyor of information and communication, but I think entertainment is far beyond that in terms of its
mm,
viability across different markets and different age groups, in terms of the way that it basically permeates your life from the moment you start watching TV or movies like the indoctrination effect of the message that they want to convey. And this isn't like a particular knock against Disney's particular sort of, I would say, like ideologies and beliefs. But the fact that a kid who's like 3 years old can watch a Disney movie and then go through the rest of their life watching Disney movies year in and year out, and that messaging and the way that entertainment somehow has an incredible ability to convey information that is not flying over your head in a conscious way, but it is penetrating your subconscious mind, and it stays there for a long time and becomes part of your identity and the story that you tell yourself. That is basically the most powerful corporate capability that exists on this planet, at least as far as I'm concerned. And companies like Apple and the technology that they sell to the world is a vehicle for that information to then be transferred into our brains again and again.
Yeah,
No, absolutely.
and also on top of that, like the way that you consume it. Like, I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to say that modern like phones, for example, aren't made to last a super long time. Like they
Right.
want you to buy the next one, and
Planned.
so like
Yeah,
like
Obsolescence.
that's it.
the tools that we use are planned to fail after X amount of years or however long you're supposed to use them. Which is that cyberpunk? Maybe. I mean, that's like megacorp crap. I don't
Yeah, but no, but think
know.
about it. Like think about all the cyberpunk where it's like someone has like out of date cybernetics.
You got to get the
And
latest and greatest, man.
yeah, you got to get
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
latest and greatest. Like the newest, latest, best is kind of like this. And I think Cyberpunk 2077 and that whole um, creative property kind of delves into this in terms of like there's the capitalist need for the upgrade, like the constant upgrade,
Mhm.
but then that sort of submerges you in the capitalist system, in which case you're just constantly in the cycle of like, I need to earn money in order to get this upgrade, and then that company upgrades to the
Yeah.
next thing, and then you need to get more money, and it's just this feedback loop that just consumes your life. And you can see it with the people who constantly get new iPhones, who get new
Hmm.
whatever the latest iteration of their favorite technology is. That just kind of digs into this really base nature of the human brain. And it's fucked up that modern society, I think this is something that Cyberpunk predicted in like a really prescient way, but also in a way that is like, oh my god, this sucks. Like, it's so horrible. But human beings, for our entire existence as a species, back when we were hunter gatherers, back when we were living on the savannah, or whichever part of the ancient world, there's a human need to strive for the next thing. You are striving for the next meal, for the next shelter, for materials in order to eat and survive or make fire or whatever. Every single moment that you exist is a moment where you're thinking about, how do I continue to exist? And when it comes to technology, we've gotten to this point where we think the technology is so essential to our existence that our need, it's like, oh my god, my phone is so slow with this latest update, I can't survive. And that immediately triggers something in our brain where we're like, I need the
Bye.
next thing.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
I need to move forward so that everything is faster, everything's more wireless, everything's blah 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 blah.
Yep.
It's insane the ways in which corporations have been able to tap into human psychology.
Okay, rapid fire. Let's do it real quick. Advertisements, right? That's a huge component, I feel like, in the aesthetic and
Mhm.
also the genre of cyberpunk in terms of, we were just talking about it, capitalism, right? Making sure people want the latest thing that's coming out. That in a sense of, that desire to buy, continually buy, as well as the way it's presented in terms of the aesthetic, right? Holograms are out there. We have these ads are in your face. They're almost everywhere you look, which kind of draws me to today. Ads are almost everywhere we look on our phone. on YouTube videos. Like this YouTube video right here is probably going to have ads somewhere in there. Ads are everywhere, right? I feel like it's a huge part of Cyberpunk, and it's a huge part of today right now as well.
That question was not rapid fire.
No, it wasn't. See, this is why.
The brief answer I have to this topic is basically just like, yeah, obviously, if like a lot of products today are either subsidized by advertising or they are free, and thus you are the product being advertised to. YouTube, for example, is a great example of this because you're not paying for YouTube probably. If you are, then you're not seeing ads. If you aren't, then you are. You are the product. And Cyberpunk is a great place to explore this as well because that ties in so closely with the consumerism and the megacorps and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we're already there. It's not going to get better.
But it's going to get worse because now we have AI in the background collecting your data. It's going to be targeting what ads to send you,
which has been going on for a long time already. To be fair,
yes,
yeah. I mean, targeted ads is not a new thing for sure, but I think like the people as product thing that I would like to see more of in Cyberpunk. Obviously, it's been touched on here and there, but I think now that we're living it, it's definitely something that fiction could explore more deeply in the ways in which humans essentially become a number in a system, and the ways in which corporations treat those particular people, and the ways in which products and advertisements are bombarded at them. Like one of the coolest things is like, it's cool from an aesthetic sense, but it's terrifying. Is like you see in like Altered Carbon and Cyberpunk, where basically like you have your augmented vision. Maybe it's like on augmented or like what is it? Augmented reality sort of experience where there's like holographic images that are like floating around you and bombarding you. You have to like cancel all that shit. Like those things are really pervasive. But I think now is a time where we can have a real conversation about it because people are either they're blatantly unaware of it and they're just like, whatever, skip ad, or they're actually buying that stuff. Or people are more engaged with the fact that like, I don't like this advertisement, but that doesn't stop me from wanting to use that particular product. Or maybe they don't even realize it, be treated themselves as a product.
I haven't finished it yet, but I recall there are parts of Daniel Green's book where
A Witch's Sin?
Yes. Where basically like there are ads just like similar to what you were saying where it's like augmented reality. Like I think the main character's like home just has ads plastered all along it. And like just
you get subsidized rent. You get subsidized rent, but you have ads all over your house.
It's truly terrifying.
Oh my god. Yeah. So I think that is like advertising is actually a thing that science fiction and in general, but also Cyberpunk can explore in more fascinating ways, I think.
Next three, I'm just going to say them out real quick and maybe just say whatever comes to your mind. Wearables, VR, reliance on technology. We kind of tapped on reliance on technology a little bit. But VR, I feel like is a really cool one because it's kind of flashy and we can kind of use these technologies today.
It's kind of fucking goofy though.
It is. That's what the problem is, that it's presented in fiction as really cool and you're in this alternate reality in cyberspace. But when you go into the metaverse, Facebook's metaverse, you're like, I don't know.
Why would you go there?
A bunch of me's from Wii.
Yeah.
I think like wearables in conjunction with VR, like those two in conversation with each other, I think VR is the kind of thing that exists well in the space of things like video games, because it is a specific experience that not everybody is going to want to experience day in, day out. There are people that might want to, and that's like, I totally understand that. There is a very small subset of humanity that will want to wear a VR headset every day, all day. But I think wearables is I mean, a phone is practically a wearable. It's like strapped to our
Yeah. And
legs
then
or strapped to our,
smartwatches now.
smartwatches, all these kinds of things. Those are direct extensions of the transhumanism conversation that we had at the beginning in terms of augmentations. I think wearables and devices like phones are essentially what modern society has presented as our lived experience version of augmentation. And that's probably like, it's like baby steps type thing. Like these are the baby steps that will get us toward more deeply ingrained and invasive augmentation. But like wearables, if it doesn't look goofy, if it's functional, I think people in real life tend to go more with functionality than they do. Like aesthetics play a lot into it, obviously. Like an Apple Watch looks great, but if you like you have a stupid pair of glasses, like I think
Google Glass,
Yeah.
remember
Google
that?
Glass or something like that, that doesn't really work.
And
But
kind of
someone
to the
who's like,
aesthetics conversation, Apple Vision
yeah,
Pro came out, and everybody was like,
That's
"Oh, we
so
should take
cool.
another look at this thing because that
yeah,
looks really cool."
right, right.
Um,
But
it's
something
like,
like I think something like augmented reality contact lenses
mhm,
is much more applicable and much less
yeah,
uh, like so many people are used to wearing contact lenses. If you've never worn contact lenses, it's not exactly like the worst transition to be comfortable wearing contact lenses. I think
mhm,
augmented reality contact lenses is something that is much, much, much more likely to be
yeah.
integrated into human
Or
life and reality and the ways in which we interact with wearables and take those baby steps again to more deeper augmentations.
yeah, as well as like any way that you can make something that we're already doing work better in
Yeah,
some way. Like I think I don't
that's the
I
reliance thing
didn't I
too.
didn't look closely enough at it to remember what I'm talking about right now. But I saw there was like some new pair of glasses or something where like in the little like hinge there was a little camera right here,
That's,
and
yeah, it's
you
Ray
could,
Ban. Hmm.
oh, maybe, yeah, I don't, I like I said, I didn't really look too closely at it,
My
but
brother has a pair of those.
okay, so yeah, you can get, glasses with cameras in them that just look like normal glasses, and like
Hmm.
that was always the problem with Google Glass, was they didn't look like normal glasses.
Hmm. Yeah,
um so like, yeah, we're already there, we're doing it, and I agree with Adrian, like this is like every time that we do something in this space is a step toward the next thing.
yeah. And that reliance factor plays into it in the sense that every time we get comfortable with something and it's ingratiated into our daily experience, the reliance factor goes up. So
Yep.
Hmm.
if something on a functional level
Yeah.
makes our life easier, on an aesthetic level doesn't look
Yeah.
awkward and stupid, it just feels like a natural part of our experience and our
Yeah. like
bodies and our
uh
style and all that
like
kind of stuff,
watches.
like an Apple Watch or
Yeah,
whatever.
we used to
Those are,
have water clocks,
yeah,
you know.
those are the things that will slowly but surely sort of like diffuse across society, and the functionality will breed reliance, and then that will provide the next step for the next product to take us to that next step.
Yeah, there's some products out there that come out and you didn't even realize that it was an issue before.
Right,
Right? This new
exactly.
thing comes out,
But
like,
that
oh
but
wow,
that's where
thank you.
advertising comes in. Advertising
Hmm.
is like, hey, you're pretty shit at this, I got something for
Yeah, I
you.
think I am.
I
And
think
like
I
you don't
am. You're
even, that
totally
wasn't even a
right.
thought in your
Yeah.
mind for the longest
And like
time.
eventually it'll be like an AI voice doing the voiceover for the commercial, because that's the dystopia
No.
that we're headed
Because
I'm
that's
telling you,
toward.
2 days
market
ago,
researched voice that gets the most sales.
Oh my
two
god,
days
yeah.
ago, I
Or
called in to
customized,
get a
like
pizza
basically like a personalized voiceover or something like
Mhm.
that.
from, 2 days ago, I called in to get a pizza from Domino's, and I swear I was talking to an AI chatbot. Like it just sounded so strange, and like the answers came like that instantaneously. I was like, this don't
Or
seem right. And then
maybe it was someone who was just taking a lot of cocaine.
I asked something that was a
You're
little
reading
bit
my
more
mind. I know.
complex. They said, "All right, we'll transfer you to the store." I'm like, "Oh, now you're gonna transfer me to the store." Oh, this is just so strange. I don't know.
I mean, for sure, Domino's is like corporate pizza, so of course they have like a customer service hotline. that then transfers to the actual store.
I wanted to say
we covered
thank
them
you.
all. We covered them
We
all.
covered the items here. I had a blast.
Yeah, thank you
Cyberpunk is
so
an
much.
awesome genre. Any last words from you guys in terms of last word messages about the genre? Beware. Watch out for Terminator. Watch out for Skynet. Any last words from you guys?
No, I think be more optimistic. Like cyberpunk is a good genre to immerse yourself in and feel pretty shitty afterwards, depending on what you consume or the way in which you interact with it. But I think cyberpunk is one of those genres that gets misunderstood a lot of the time, or it gets overly simplified. Which is why like I love Cyberpunk 2077, but like Adam and I were saying before, it's like it's the greatest hits of Cyberpunk, and it doesn't really envision the ways in which humanity's future and the ways that Cyberpunk can apply to that can be both entertaining and positive and educational all at the same time. And I think early Cyberpunk was doing an amazing job of envisioning the future in ways that were both scary and incredibly exciting and incredibly inspirational. And I think cyberpunk as a genre today could lean more into the inspiration as opposed to like the sheer entertainment value.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Cyberpunk has become kind of a way to rehash the ideas from the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
It's like retro futurist at this point. Whereas
It's like
I
let's
feel like
bring back all denim and like
yeah, yeah,
some
which
trends
like
that.
fun, but
Yeah, fun.
but I feel like, we're in a new space right now where a lot of these technologies are around us in some form. And a lot of the problems are around us in some form. And it's like, what does a cyberpunk future look like knowing what we do now? How, like, where does it move forward from here?
Like post cyberpunk.
Yeah.
I feel like
We're just gonna keep going
post cyberpunk is that's a whole separate genre from what. When you go on our cyberpunk, there's some crazy forums on there in terms of what the
Well,
definition of cyberpunk is and what is
yeah.
cyberpunk. And
when you
post
go on
cyberpunk
Reddit,
is not
there's a lot of
cyberpunk.
crazy definitions.
Okay. It's very interesting, but sometimes going back to the cyberpunk 2077 being just a classic cyberpunk feel that's high octane fun like that. If you want that, there are options out there for it as well, right? With that in mind, I'm just so happy you guys came here tonight. I had a blast. We went through a lot of different topics here very quickly, and I still feel like we need a part 2 in the future. Talk about post cyberpunk,
I'm here.
solar pirate, solar punk. There's so many different punks out there, man.
Fungal punk, man.
Fungal punk, of course. We got the mushroom blooms over here. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I had so much fun.
Thank you,
And for everyone watching, have a good one. Keep reading. Peace.